Okay, Vincent, take it away.
According to Sellos, Maniakes was 3 meters tall. His problem was that he was violent, cruel, arrogant, and he was extremely rude to everyone, even the Varangians.
Here's an example of a witty epigram by Christophoros of Mytilene. The mice have eaten my books, the owl my sleep. Such is the lot of a scholar who lives in a heap. Christophoros of Mytilene, also known as Christopher of Mytilene, was a Greek language poet who flourished in the first half of the 11th century. Here's some interesting information about him. Born around the turn of the second millennium in Constantinople, Christophoros of Mytilene was not only a prominent medieval Roman poet, but also an imperial bureaucrat. He held several important positions, such as Patricios, proconsul, and protospatharios of the Christotriklinos, and Krites, or an English judge of Armeniakon and Paphlagonia. Christophoros authored a collection of 145 poems called Various Verses, which included satirical, religious, and epigrammatic works. Importante note about his works, and why I liken him to a medieval George Carlin, was he used elements in his compositions that were relatively rare in Greek poetry of his time. For example, one of his unique traits in comparison to Roman authors of the time was his witty tone. His works often merged Christian and classical themes and featured a diverse range of subjects, from charioteers, religious figures, to works on all tiers of Roman society. One may get a glimpse into the lively culture of 11th century Constantinople through Christophoros's works. This literary titan of Constantinople was a contemporary and near in age to the main focus of the channel, the General George Maniakes. Some of the poet's most iconic historical poetry comes from the events following the failed Maniakes' usurpation. The evidence about Christophoros of Mytilene's personal life is quite limited. There don't appear to be any records or mentions of him being married or having children. Most of what we know about him comes from his own works or the titles he's given in manuscripts. He did mention his close family members in his poems, such as his brother Ioan and his sister Anastaso, but nothing about a wife or children, or the rest of his extended family. Christophoros of Mytilene was known for his diverse range of poetry. Various verses. Stichi diaphori. This is a collection of 145 poems, featuring a mix of satirical, religious, and epigrammatic works. Poems on historical events. These poems capture significant moments of his time, such as the death of Romanos Thurip and the riots of 1042. Funeral orations. Among these are touching poems for his mother and sister. Epigrams on religious topics. These poems often touch upon Christian figures and feasts. Satirical poems. In these poems, he humorously critiqued various members of society, including monks, intellectuals, and even animals like mice and owls. Encomium on the Spider, one of his unique longer poems, praising the spider's web-weaving skills. 4 Christian calendars. These were composed in 4 different meters, commemorating the saints and feasts of the Orthodox Christian liturgical year. Once one digs into this proto-modern comedian of the Middle Ages, one may find him remarkable for how he finely intertwined both Christian and classical elements seamlessly and complementary into his works. Details about Christophoros of Mytilene's death are quite scant. What we do know is that he lived past the year 1050, but the exact circumstances of his death remain a mystery. Since so much of his life is wrapped in the history of his poetry and official titles, it's not surprising that the details of his passing are elusive. Christophoros of Mytilene, a medieval Roman poet's legacy in the twilight of the Roman Empire, where the echoes of ancient glories still reverberated through marble halls. There arose a voice, sharp, witty, and unyielding. This voice belonged to Christophoros of Mytilene, a master of the epigram and a beacon of literary prowess in a world teetering on the brink of change. Born around the dawn of the second millennium, Christophoros carved his niche in a time of political flux and cultural renaissance. Mytilene, his homeland, was a jewel of the Aegean, an island where the sea's whispers mingled with the stories of old, and where the weight of history was felt in every cobblestone. Christophoros was no mere observer of his times. With a pen as his sword, he cut through the fabric of society, inscribing his thoughts on life, love, and the follies of mankind. His epigrams, though brief, were filled with a depth that belied their length, each word chosen with the precision of a master craftsman. One must imagine him, perhaps in a shaded courtyard, the scent of blooming jasmine in the air, as he composed his verses. They were not meant for the grand tomes of history, but for the objects of daily life. Inscribed on vases, tablets, and monuments, his words were intended to be seen, pondered, and remembered. Christophoros's work was celebrated for its wit and wisdom. His epigrams were not just poetry. They were mirrors reflecting the truths of his world. Whether praising the beauty of a beloved, lamenting the passage of time, or offering a sharp critique of societal norms, his verses resonated with an authenticity that struck at the heart of his readers. And yet, it was not just his skill with words that set Christophoros apart. It was his ability to capture the ephemeral moments of existence, to distill the essence of human experience into lines that would endure long after his own time had passed. Though Christophoros of Mytilene lived in a bygone era, his legacy endures. His epigrams, inscribed on the objects and memories of his age, continue to speak to us across the centuries. They remind us of the power of words, the beauty of brevity, and the timeless nature of human experience. Epigrams' characteristics: brief, witty, and often satirical. Written on various subjects, including love, politics, and daily life. Frequently inscribed on objects such as vases, buildings, and monuments. Examples and authors: Christophoros of Mytilene, circa 1000 to 1050 AD, renowned for his skill in crafting epigrams. While his works fall slightly outside the classical Byzantine period, they reflect the enduring popularity of this form. Δικαία τα ότστα, δημιουργέ μου λόγε, πίνθνευνεμσουνε πάντας προθρούσουμε να κάνεις χώτναν ετών, πνικάν σφίσιμιαν, τελεονδέπος νησον άνετο έστιν βίον. Να στάσιν πάντα πάντως ον έκμεχη, μεν αλλαγήν πραγμάτων. Πώς κάνεις μπότε, καώς γνηρδέησος στραφέντα τεν βίον κύκλους μαλίτιν βαχίκος μταξίας, μέμβριν χιλίης πλουσίης με μυρίης, εμείς δυσχύσας συγκάτηση το εσκάτω μέναν δάνε πένι συμφθλίης τρισμυρίης, τρέος εν υπραγός ικανς γίνονται τόσνον. Το ητοκδικαιούτικο με ζήλοχ, λόγε, κάνς τα οταπρανθευθέγω με δεσπότην πνάσχου μακροθυμόζουν, νας μέθος, κάνς δος μήμος μκουένο εγωγισμάτεν. Μέδευναν έντσον εκ με πλάσας χερσίσου, τούτουν πλάστης δλος, με τι λεκτέων, ον εκμέργατος ως μπάντες εμείς δακτύλων, μελομαβάνετος ον εκπναγέ μόνον κατρύφωσιν, μπνικάνς πολυπλέον κάνς δος περιτός μεν τρίφωση το οβίου, όμα δεν βλήχονται κάνς μονοβλόμου τρίφους, με μσλον μικάνς τραπέζης ψυχίαν. Δίκαιε, που οκδίκαια τα την χάνει, μνος πότε στήσιας μόρμοντεν κτίσιν, σύσισον ανέτοιμα κατάκλεισον πάλι μηδεν σκυβωτόκ δευτέρας ανθιστήχη, νοζέτης γέννητο κάνς πάλι νέωσον φχιντοπάντες, λείψανον δμινάτο. Εμεί, νας να πέσχου, μακρόθη με αριστέ μου, τα εγώ μισά οθισόν εκατακλείζειν θέλεις, κας γνερφυλάτης, όμσδα, τες να αποσχέσεις, μόντλαν τα χειρισοβάν μεκτός νου, τεν θμπισαν ανέτο συγκατάστρεσον κτίσιν. Μίχν σπόλων γόκαν στην πάντα συμφύρον το γνερός γέννητο πάντο μισό της. Okay, Vincent, take it away. Vincent is a community AI voice. From free text to speech online. Well, actually, so is this voice. My voice. What you are hearing is a cloned version of my voice from their online software. It really saves me time as I do most of this on my own. If they could only prompt the AI to recognize Roman numerals. That would be great. Okay, Vincent, take it away.
Is this just, Creator, Word of God, that though all men are from a single clay, one nature, and one common heap of dust, they get unequal pay somehow from life? Yes, yes, in every way all things lack stasis, but how and when do they exchange affairs? So, what if you implore life to revolve, the disks of Bacchic disarray to spin? For all the myriad thousands of the rich bad luck would join just one to those below. In turn, for all the countless struggling poor, three would do well and join a higher rank. O word, I melt with zeal for what is just, and therefore, Master, I cry out to you. Magnanimous one, bear with me, it is your way. Now listen to these grumblings of mine. Perhaps you made some men with your own hands, while someone else made others. What should be said? Is everybody not your fingers' work? In any case, some laugh in opulence, and mock the needs their luxuries surpass, exulting in the excesses of life, as others strive for bits of broken bread, crumbs off the tabletops, in other words. Where is it just one, that such things are just? How long will you save creation for our sake? Shake it apart or flood it clean again, but make sure no one gets a second ark. Do not let some new Noah come this time. Let everybody vanish with no trace. If, as you promised, my magnanimous Christ, you do not wish to flood your earth again, then cast down lofty Atlas with your hand, turn all creation upside down with him, kneading, confounding, and mixing all heaven and earth. That would bring equality to all.
These works continue to resonate with their depth and beauty.
The Giant of Macedonia. A twisted redemption. In the year 998, in the rugged landscapes of Macedonia, a child was born who would leave an indelible mark on history. Named George Maniakes, he was unlike any other, standing a colossal 3 meters tall and endowed with an extraordinary physical presence. His immense size and strength were matched only by his fierce intelligence, although it was often overshadowed by his arrogance and acerbic wit. George Maniakes, known as the Giant of Macedonia, rose swiftly through the ranks of the Roman military, serving in both the eastern and western provinces. His reputation for cruelty and violence was as legendary as his sheer size, causing fear and awe among allies and enemies alike. Even the mighty Varangians trembled in his presence, and tales of his exploits spread far and wide. It was said that his thunderous voice could send stray dogs, cattle, and even old ladies scurrying in terror.